I just couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop being upset. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't function. And it just became a point where I just kind of stopped functioning. I remember at different times I would get up in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep, and I would just cry in my closet because I didn't want to wake up my husband. You know, you think about your kids and you want to be available for them, and it just wasn't there. It was like a ghost of a person.
She was just in a really dark place, a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. There was just a lot of struggles.
You start getting all these stigmas and all these feelings. You know, you can't show up to work consistently. You can't walk your dog, or all these other responsibilities. You know, it's kind of shameful at the same time because you just feel like, I can't believe this is my life, you know? It's like I should be so happy. I have all this good stuff around me, and yet I can't really fully enjoy it. You just feel still kind of hollow and empty. You just can't quite touch the emotions you want. And instead you get flooded with all the emotions that you don't really want. You just want to say, that's not who I really am, but even with medication, that's just kind of where I am. So the first time I had heard about TMS was when I'd actually had, I guess, the second breakdown last year in 2020. I just couldn't handle the pressure of work and trying to help my son and my kids go to school. And it became too much and overwhelming. My doctor thought that I would be a good candidate, so he ended up suggesting to me that I try TMS. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it entailed. And that's when I decided to kind of look online and see what I could find. There was a couple of blogs out there that I was able to look at and really get some insight into other people that have used it, family members of people that have used it, and kind of their experience. I kind of just felt like I had nothing to lose and potentially a lot to gain. Like, if this really works, you know, this is gonna change my life.
When the doctors had something that he thought might help, I mean, I was completely on board. It was like, you know, if there's a chance that this could really work, like, you know, absolutely, let's go for it.
I was told that a patient experience manager, Steven, would be contacting me, and he was just amazing. He was actually able to answer a lot of the questions I had, like, would it hurt? You know, how does it feel when you're doing it? How soon before you notice anything? Well, I was very anxious during my first session. You know, after hearing all these good things, you know, you don't really know what to expect. So you're kind of just, you're anxious, but you're not really sure why. So I kind of went into it with a little bit of trepidation, but also a whole lot of hope. When you first have it done, you don't feel anything. You're like, this is kind of weird, just make some noises. You feel like a little something tapping at your head, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, you're like, what's supposed to happen? And then after, you know, them switching things and marking things, all of a sudden your finger just randomly moves. And they're trying to get that response. Then you're kind of like, what happens now? You know, like, am I gonna feel different tomorrow? You know, when does all this happen?
She had her reservations for sure about TMS, and she mentioned that like almost every treatment the first few weeks, like, oh man, like when am I gonna start seeing improvement? Like, does TMS work?
I think the first big moment for me was maybe 3 or 4 weeks in. And our son was running around the house with one of his Nerf guns. And from across the kitchen, a stray Nerf bullet came and it hit Liz on like the side of the head. And I remember just kind of bracing.
I have a real difficult time being startled. I would cry and be angry and, you know, even have times where I'm enraged, like somebody's shooting a Nerf gun near me, you know, and I wasn't expecting it.
And then she just kind of turned and was like, Mason, we've talked about this, you know, we don't shoot anywhere towards people. And he kind of ran off, and I was just kind of like, wow. Like, it was this big moment of, I don't feel like that's how that would have gone a month ago.
Before the end of the first month, I started noticing a difference. It wasn't like I was manic or elated or anything crazy, but I just kind of was like, huh, today's not a bad day, you know? Another thing I noticed is how much calmer I was.
Throughout the TMS process, she was able to handle situations in a different way where she knew prior that it would have just completely devastated her or just ruined her mood for, you know, long periods of time.
You know, after TMS, it just kind of, it just puts you in a place where you really can just start to kind of shift everything in your head and re-engage, and your focus is clearer, you know, on what your real priority is. I started getting to a point where I was like, maybe I can step up here and help out. And so I just decided, okay, I'm gonna help at least one day a week. You know, I'm gonna try and make dinner tonight. And my husband's like, oh, great, that'd be awesome. And it started off one day, and it just kind of every day got easier to do. And now I'm doing it all the time. And I just feel like kind of a productive member of my own family. It's something that I really feel very grateful for.
I'm just noticing her downstairs, you know, more often in the evenings, more engaged, outside doing more things. I mean, I feel like we've gotten the lifeblood of our family back.
If I had to look at the big picture and how TMS has impacted my life, I would say I find myself just very present. That's something that was very difficult for me. Some of the anxiety that I had was kind of just silenced. I just feel like I'm in control, and I didn't feel that way before.
So I'd say my last piece of advice would be to not give up. There are a lot of people who've struggled, have seen a lot of different therapists or tried a lot of different medications, and none of it has felt like they've really gotten themselves back. And there are other treatments out there, like this TMS that didn't exist, you know, a few years ago. And so you're worth it. Your mental health is worth it. So don't give up.
I honestly, it's like, where has this thing been? Like, there's a couple years I really could have used this much sooner. So I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying. So I really hope other people, if they get suggested to use it, I really, really hope they do it. And I hope that it impacts them the way it has me, because it's awesome.